This review is presented by One Car Stereo, professional car audio manufacturer and supplier providing high-quality products.
Don't be defensive, don't be aggressive. It will be a waste cause we could be expensive. You need a little fee in your life. You need a little me in your life. I wanna see the sea in your eyes. You need to be free.
The supercars in the Holy Trinity League, well, that is often said to be the LaFerrari, the Porsche 918 and the McLaren P1. And if you move to the big sedan or the estate supercar league, well, then you often talk about the BMW M5, the Mercedes E63 AMG and the Audi RS6. Because they've been around for so long. There are some other competitors like, for instance, the Porsche Panamera Sport Turismo, but that hasn't been around as long as these guys. And one of the most crisp, most elegant in that league, according to me, and I think to many others, that sparkles with a lot more elegance. Even though Mercedes is elegant, BMW is elegant, but they have such different personalities and driving characters. This is just so carved out right in some way. There is nothing that goes on in the design with the RS6 that really feels like, that is not good looking. This is good looking into its every little detail. The BMW M5, well, now in its latest generation, you can get that in an estate, but the previous one, the one that came along together with this model, because this has a couple of years on it now. It came 2019, but it still looks very good. The materials are good. It just feels robust. And the presence that it's got, well, just look at it. It is strong, it is bulky, it is wider, it has a great low stance, and it just looks like it should. Together with this strong V8, that the package is just complete. You can choose how you want to start it, if you want it to bark when you start up, or if you don't want it to bark. And you can choose then auto, efficient, comfort, and if you want it to bark, you set it into dynamic. And then it pops and bangs and roars a little. So let's get back into efficiency. Efficiency, well, that's a fun word in a car like this. 4-liter V8 twin turbo, bigger turbos on this new performance, delivering 630 horsepower, 850 newton meters of torque, and it weighs 2,100 kilos, a little more. Well, you don't expect a car like this to be efficient and not that thirsty, right? 1.2, 1.3 liters, that's what the VLTP says in combined consumption. You don't really reach that, but the funny thing is that it's got a 48-volt system. Look at this. When I come to the red light, it cuts off the engine when you roll down at 20 kilometers an hour. So it cuts the engine and saves some of these drops. And if you drive very, very smooth and are gentle on the throttle, maybe you can reach that 1.2, 1.3. And it also shows you that when you drive slow, it says 4 cylinders are playing along. So it cuts off 4-cylinder in that 8-cylinder bank. But it's a very interesting and impressive car, this one, because when driving along in comfort like this, at 70 to 100 kilometers or even more, it is very quiet. And the setup and the air suspension, well, it just works so great. It becomes just this long-distance cruiser. You don't really think that you're driving in something that's got 600 horsepower plus and has this big engine and this brutal mentality that you can get if you undress it, because you need to undress it. And by that I mean you really need to grab it and drive it hard before it really shows its right colors of what it is in the performance league. The BMW, you were able to put it into rear-wheel drive. It has a bit more fun character over it. You can slide it a lot more, you can drift it. There is just something extra with that happy playfulness that it's got. The Mercedes is a bit more planty. You can get that into drift mode. You can also do some burnouts with that in a different way. And it might have a little bigger boot. But the RS6 has always symbolized its quattro. 4-wheel drive, that's it. Nothing to play around with. Planted, good grip, and a lot of thrust. And a lot more thrust you're offered with in this one. The turbos are bigger. You get 630 horsepower from the previous 600 in the normal RS, outgoing RS version. 850 Newton meters, 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.4 seconds, whereas the normal one did 3.6 seconds. And the top speed is lifted up to 280 kilometers an hour. You can get another pack, so it's lifted up to 305 kilometers an hour if you want that. And that is rather relevant in this car, because what this car needs to become a real hyper supercar and to show its muscle in the right way, well, that is a driver that really want to grab it by the neck and throw it around hard, because otherwise it is so civilized. It just feels like any other big estate car. You can't really believe that you're driving on a bomb almost with all this power when you're just cruising along, inefficient, in comfort, and just in your daily commuting. It is fantastic, it is quiet, it is refined, it is very subtle, and that is what I find so incredible with this car. It's got so many different ways of acting, and together with all its elegance, that just shows how popular it is. And every time you mention an RS6, well, people, they react and they just want to talk about it because they know it is a hardcore car. So it's really got this trick up its sleeve. But when driving it hard, you need to remember that it weighs 2 tons plus, 2,100 kilos approximately. And how this car picks up pace, well, you really need to plan your driving when you want to take it out on curvy roads, because taking it out on curvy roads is something that you can do, because that's what transforms it into almost the feeling of driving a little hot hatchback. So the looks are really aggressive. I've always liked these headlights. They look so mean. Matrix headlights, which are just great. They're in laser shape, so they have such strong capabilities at night. And you can just see when an oncoming car is coming. It spots its headlights, and then it makes a little gap there. But everything that is dark around that object, well, is lit up perfectly. So that is good. It's got sensors that reads out the road. You got some night vision as well. And it's got this old blacked out rings here in the front. Very hungry, big grille. Carbon fiber at the lip here. You got matte satin carbon fiber rear mirrors. A bit blacked out look together with this Audi exclusive individual color. So you can choose what color you want. And when you go to Audi exclusive, whether you can do almost anything if that brochure that you can pick standard colors and stuff out of isn't enough for you. And it's also got a very nice interior with this two-tone leather, brown and black. And also a lot of Alcantara and some naked carbon fiber in the sides of the doors. They also took away some of the isolation around the engine to make it a bit more present, and also at the rear, so you can hear some of that exhaust, that nice raw deep sound of the exhaust tone when you drive in dynamic mode. So that is very honest. There's nothing artificial about that sound that many times is being put into the speakers and played out while you throttle away. Sometimes I think that that is fine, because when you drive fast, you just want some sound to align with your driving, and that works. But there is something with a pure, real sound that comes from these two big, almost tunnel-like exhaust pipes. Lighter 22-inch neodyme gold rims, very big, but that's also a thing. When you drive, you think that you have big rims, and yeah, there's not that much rubber on these tires, low-profile tires, but still, it is so quiet and so relaxed. And that suspension just works so well. You can get two different suspension. You can have air suspension, you can have that RS Dynamic Sport dampers. And that's what makes this car both very smooth to drive, but at the same time also makes it really clinch onto the road in such a sporty fashion that it is immense. And on top of that, it also has the sport differential. So it has a little more oversteer character, even though it is not a lot of oversteer in this car, but you can push it out a little more to dose that understeer that might come. But you need to learn how to drive this car, both in the way that it weighs a lot and how much speed it picks up. But that is very thankful, having that sport differential. It makes the world. And what makes it even better on top of that is that it's got four-wheel steering. So We all know what that does and what that does to a big, hefty car. Well, it just swings it from one corner to another, and it also becomes a lot more practical when driving in town, when driving in tight spaces, and when maneuvering generally. It is just great, and I am so impressed by this car, and I know that a lot of other people are as well. I've driven the 2020 model, but this performance one is just on another level. And many people praise it that much, and I was thinking like, you know, still it is a heavy car. Can it really do that much? I want to take it on to my favorite roads, those small, tight roads that, you know, it's almost like a rally car road, because you can really feel how a car behaves, how hard you need to brake, how quick you can turn in, and how it can really control itself when you really unsettle the whole car's character, body roll, and the way it moves around. Just look at the brake calipers, they are just so big. We got steel brakes on this one. You can get the ceramic brakes into the RS Dynamic Pack Plus, but I like steel brakes. I think they have very good grip. They bite immediate. And sure, if you drive on track lap after lap with this one, with steel brakes and all this weight, then they might get a little spongy and overheat. And that's when you should have the ceramic brakes. But on normal roads when driving, you cool them off well enough and they just bite immediately. So this is just fair enough. Boot space is 565 liters, so you get a lot of stuff in there. You can fold the seats and you got even more, about 1600 liters. Something else that I just adore with this car is the steering wheel. This is one of the most comfortable sporty steering wheels that I've ever come across, actually. I think it's just so neat. It's got this Porsche touch, but also BMW Mercedes AMG touch, but with the lightness of it. It's not so thick. It's got this very almost bony type of feel. You get a perfect grip. It is in full Alcantara here, so the grip is just perfect, but it just looks adorable and feels adorable when you start to steer. Because when you start to steer, well, that is a sensation in its own with this car. 2.1 tons, and it steers this well. So this is permanent four-wheeled drive in this quattro way. You just get all the grip that you need. It isn't as fun maybe as a BMW in that way that you can just get it in rear-wheel drive. You can get that in the Mercedes as well when you go into drift mode. But it is just super planted. This new sport differential lets you get the back out a little, but not much. This is not a drifter. This is supposed to be planted all the way through. Just a lot of grip, a lot of speed, and a lot of excitement in that way. Because when you really want to go for it, well, then you can go for it. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour is dealt with in 3.4 seconds. So launch control, and it is just, it's a bomb. Nice bark. Could have been a bit more tone to it. You hear that whooshing sound, and when the turbos are playing on the let off, it just sounds great. But an RS model could have been tuned up a little, but this is fair enough. You're so focused on this extreme speed that this car picks up that it's nothing that you really care that much about. Downshifts, it is not that playable all the time. It's not like it really wants to pin down, but it's smooth, it's soft. But the gear shift, there is really nothing to complain about there. And this is the thing, when you drive it this hard, you really need to know where to brake in time. Because the thing about it all of a sudden, when you grab it by the neck, feel like a little hot hatchback. It turns in so well, and with this four-wheel steering, it turns in even better. So you can be fooled sometimes of thinking, oh, I can go even faster and faster and faster in that bend. This is still 2.1 tons, and you can only do so much. So you really need to get the speed down in time. But the brakes, they are just good. We got steel brakes on this one. You can get the ceramic brakes if you want. And on a heavy car like this, well, driving it on track, which you can, then these are the option for you. But I love that immediate feel that you get from steel brakes. Ceramic brakes can sometimes, yep, you really need to work them, get a little heat into them, and yeah, then they just go on and on and on. But I like steel brakes, and these big brakes, you've got such big calipers on this car that they won't fade that quickly. The steering inputs are just there, and together with the brake feel and all of this, I think it is just a magnificent sporty ride. So it's got these two different characters of a car that you wouldn't believe. They've really taken it to a new level with this performance version. So the RS line, they can really do something with cars that is quite remarkable. And at the same time, taking it easy, relaxing, and then you're in a cruise mode and can just cruise for just as long as you want. Stepping inside, and you can really sense what it's all about when you talk about quality, when you talk about fitting, elegance, and just subtle high premium feel. If there is a car that really embodies tactile feel, well, then it is Audi. This is Audi exclusive, so it feels even more exclusive. This is special. You got the light chocolate brown Alcantara here in the sides. You got naked carbon fiber up here, leather, nice brown stitching all around, also in this beautiful Alcantara steering wheel. Particularly this RS steering wheels are among the very best. They are my favorites. These two-tone leather seats, which are, they're just great. They are just great. There's nothing to talk about more than they are great. They feel so good to the touch, and this honeycomb pattern here is soft, and you just fall into them with perfect support. Not getting too cramped in any way, just spacious and sporty and relaxing at the same time. So it lines up with the type of feel you get when you drive it. Great feel in all the buttons, some aluminium feel here for the memory buttons, and then you get to this system which just flows nicely together here. But it's nothing that makes you aroused in any way. It's just subtle elegance that feels good, that looks good, and I think that's the focus that they want to have. It doesn't catch your attention in any way, it's just there. And that is very special. German clean design in some way, in its very best way. Tactile feel in the menus here. The processor is quick enough. You get into these big menus. It's very intuitive, easy to understand. Navigation, quickly get into that one. Graphics are just super sharp. You can get into car, Audi Drive Select, and there you can choose efficiency, comfort, auto dynamic. You also got this little button called RS. You can get into RS mode 1, RS mode 2. It becomes a little more RS, stronger in its response, and you can set them as individual parameters. So that is more of an individual setting. You can monitor your car, engine oil, cooling, transmission oil, sport differential. And if you want to adjust the cluster layout here, well, you can do that. There is also the Audi Virtual Cockpit Plus, so you can set that in traditional layouts like normal rev counter, normal round speedometer, and if you push the RS, well, you get this runway looking rev counter. You got the effect, the newton meters, the G meters to the side, and the speedometer in the middle, and it flickers about and all of that when you reach the rev limiter. So you can just puzzle all around how you want it. Down here, that screen, that is the only thing that you look down a little when you adjust the climate, but it's well displayed down here and very logical. So there's a lot of touching on screen, but you still have some knobs and some physical buttons in the steering wheel. So it just feels like the blend is perfect. A lot of free space down here. You got parking assist if you want that, but I don't know how many that uses that one. Great camera system, so you can see all around the car. Easy to turn off the traction control. Drive select button here if you quickly want to change between the different drive modes. Two separate windows in the roof to let in some more light, always good. And you got the Alcantara in the roof all the way here on the pillars. The side, the seat belts are in this lovely brown color. Very inviting feeling, very luxurious, elegant, and classy feeling in here. And I just love that. So when you sit in here, it's a luxurious ambience that go so well with all the power that is at hand with this car. And I think that is such a good recipe for a car that just bursts with elegance, luxury, refinement, tactile feel, together with that very smooth ride and that extreme ride that you can get into at any given time. Starting price for this Audi RS6 Performance is 1,275,700 Swedish crowns. And just by starting off with that, well, it's a Performance RS6, and I think that's worth its money because I think that it offers so much. But what Audi offers as options, well, that is almost endless. You can add on so much onto this car, which is rather relevant in some cases, but it can become very expensive. But even so, that is rather motivated in this car. So whatever you want on it, it's still worth it, in my opinion. If you got the money for it and you want it to be really maxed out, well, then you got yourself one of the very, very best hyper estate cars. So I'll just name some of the things that are optional on this car. Well, that's the individual paintwork. You got the RS Sport exhaust system, the panoramic roof, Audi Presence package, the Audi rings and emblems in black, decor inlays in matte carbon fiber, inside lining in the roof with Alcantara, Audi Virtual Cockpit Plus, night vision system, 22-inch rims with a matte neodymium gold, assistant package city, leather seats in Valcona. A lot of options, but you can add on even more. So the total price for this car is a little over 1.8 million Swedish crowns, so about 180,000 euros. Backseat passengers, well, plenty of space here. A lot of knee room, a lot of headroom. The seats are sporty, great. Cup holders here. Still this beautiful Valcona leather. A little display here. Digital of the temperature, fans, how the air should be distributed, auto, heated seats, USB-C, reading lights with just a touch. Very elegant, very nice. Some shades, Bang & Olufsen sound system. Yeah, and then the same type of look all around. So yeah, you're in for a very, very comfy ride or a very exhilarating ride. So is it worth its money? Well, I think it is because it's practical. It is very luxurious. It is refined. It looks really good. It looks menacing. It looks hardcore. And people can just enjoy the comfort if you want to cruise or go for a long journey in it. It's practical. Good boot space. And if you really want to scare the heck out of people, man, you can do that. It is sensational. It really is on its tiptoes, and it feels like a super sports car. That's just what it feels like, because it is in a bigger package. Dynamic ride control, well, you can get into so many different characters of driving with this chassis, because it is adaptable. So even though it's so potent when driving in all these demanding corners, it is not as playful as a BMW. It's a different type of character in these cars. Well, especially if you put all the power to the rear wheels, which you can't do in this one. I just think that this is a bit more civilized, and it's more meant for roads that are a bit more stretched. Because in a straight line or on a motorway, oh man, it is crazy fast. It's just such a cozy feeling driving with that bark from the exhaust. You can't get away from the fact that a V8 gives you so much pleasure. Summing up the experience of the RS6 Performance, well, it's performance. You can feel that, but it's such an impressive car in that way that when you just drive it inefficient, in comfort, and not doing anything with it than just transporting yourself from A to B, then you wouldn't even notice that this is a super high performance estate. And that's what's so cool about it. Comfortable, luxurious, refined, good looking. And that is also why people talk that much about it, has it as a favorite car, because it is so hardcore and it is so civilized at the same time. and they've just nailed it. It is just a perfect package in that way. The E63 and the BMW M5, sure, they're in the same ballpark, but they have different type of characters when you drive them hard. This one, it is a bit more polished in some way. It wants more straight roads. You can take it on some curvy roads, but it's not as playful in that way, even though it's playful enough, because all of a sudden it feels like a small car when you really want to go for it. But it's a speeding monster. So on the Autobahn, you can just floor it. And there you should have that plus package. You can unlock it to 300 plus if you want to drive it really, really fast. I really, really like it. It's got presence, it's got looks, and take it out on a track day, you can do that. And you can, to some extent, whoop a lot of other sports cars. And that is something that is really fun with a big family car like this. I almost think that that is a bit of a bargain. I think it should be even more expensive, especially this one, with the quality feel that you get, with this luxurious ambience, the attention to detail, the tactile feel, and the way it rides, and how it all of a sudden can just change its personality to become a mental car.